In this video, I'll show you how to do line charts and scatter diagrams. So here we are in the Excel file that you can find on Canvas, and we're on the fourth tab that says 2.3 McGregor. So here we're analyzing the sales and profit of a company. So we're actually going to be doing several line charts here so that we can see the different ways to display the data. And so the first line chart we want to create is just for sales. So if I highlight my sales and then I go to Insert, and hopefully this feels familiar as you go through the charts and the videos, that the same steps apply, in which we're using the Insert tab and the charts to create our charts. So here we're going to hover over the line chart, and you can see little lines. Clicking on the drop down, I'm going to choose a 2D line. And so this is my sales dollars. So as you can see, our sales are going up. Now, I also want to do a line chart for my profit, so I'll do the same thing again, but this time selecting my profit data. I'll go Insert, go over to my line charts, and I'll choose the same kind of chart. And when I put them side by side, what you might notice though is that my profit chart is going down. Now, it's hard for us to analyze what does this mean between our sales and our profit. So what is actually more helpful is if we do a chart that has both variables displayed together. So I'm just going to move this out of the way so as not to distract us. And so now what I want to do is go ahead and select both sales and profit, go to my Insert, and choose my line chart option, and go ahead and do my 2D line. Now, when I look at this though, it's still kind of hard to see how my sales and my profit compare. And so if you've ever taken an accounting course or perhaps a entrepreneurship class, you'll know that profit is the money you get after you pay off all your expenses and costs of doing business. And so you'll notice that our numbers under the profit column are small numbers. They're in the low thousands of dollars, whereas our sales is in the tens of thousands. And so what we want to do is we want to take this profit line and we want to make it on a different axis. So if you right click on the orange line and go Format Data Series, there'll be an option here that says, hey, I want to plot my data on a secondary axis. So what it actually does is it creates another vertical axis over on the right just for profit. And so it's going to focus on the numbers that are within range of my profit data, whereas my axis on the left side is my sales dollars in the range of that information. So now we can analyze how my sales and my profit margin are doing together. So we'll call this our sales and profit chart, for instance. And so as you can see, as we interpret, even though our sales numbers are going up, our profit margin is going down. And so now we can make decisions on how to fix this. Perhaps we need to spend less money on certain things, or perhaps we need to increase our sales even more to help offset our expenses. So those are the kinds of decisions that business statistics can help decision makers with. And because we have so many axes in this chart, I do recommend adding the axis titles. So if you recall, when I click on my chart and I go to the Design tab, the Add Chart element here, where it says Axis Titles, it'll let me add the labels for each of my axes. So that way you can put sales on this side, you can put profit on this side, and you can put weeks down below. Let's go ahead and do a scatter diagram. So we're going to click on the last tab, 2.3 for personal computers. And we actually have several variables of information here. But recall that with a scatter diagram, we are only comparing two quantitative variables. So for instance, perhaps we want to understand the relationship, if there is one, between processor gigahertz and price. So what I'll do is I will select my processor gigahertz here by clicking on the top and dragging down the cursor and highlighting it. And then the trick is to click on the control button on your keyboard and then hold it. And when I click on price and drag it down, you'll notice that I can now highlight data points that are not right next to each other, right? Because I don't want the information in between here. Then I can go ahead and click insert. And then we are doing a scatter diagram. So it's going to look like this X and Y axis with little dots. And when I click on the drop down, there's a couple of options. I want to choose the first one where it's a scatter with just dots. When I click on that, I get my scatter diagram right here. And I want to double check that Excel correctly put the information in the right place, in that my independent variable, so my processor gigahertz, is down below, and my price, which is my dependent variable, my y-axis, is on the left. For some reason, on some computers, Excel will flip the two, and you'll have price in the bottom and gigahertz on the left. And that's not appropriate, because our independent variable, the thing that we think affects the y, is always in the bottom because it's the x-axis, and the thing that we think is dependent or might vary because of some other variable is always going to be on the y side. So again, we want to make sure to add our axis titles so that we know what's what. So here's my price, and down below here is my processor gigahertz. And so this will be a scatter diagram for computers in terms of price and processor. And so from here we can try to interpret, does there look like there's a relationship? While we are not studying curvilinear relationships, it does look like there's a bit of a curve and somewhat linear, in that as the more processor gigahertz we have, the higher the price we can expect. So if you have any questions, just let me know.